Hello, everyone. My name is Emily Talixon, and one issue I'd like to discuss regarding early childhood education would be the use of screen time in young children. When I was working on my bachelor's degree over 10 years ago, this topic was gaining traction, but a lot has changed since then. At that time, screen time really referred to the amount of time children were spending in a media environment. Now that term refers to so much more, including the quality of media a child is consuming as well as the quantity. Over the past 10 years since studying this, I have worked with many different age groups of children, but I've seen a huge shift in attention span as the need for stimulation, especially with children born during the years of 2020 and 2024. I've come to realize that the pandemic really has had a large impact on the use of screen time in young children. I was surprised when I looked at this article put out by the International Journal of Technology and Education that shows there was a global increase in the use of screen time by a staggering 52% between the years 2020 and 2022. That number astounds me. I knew it must be a lot, but I had no idea it was that much. As much as I would like to pass judgment and shout from the rooftops that screen time is bad, my heart empathizes with parents who are stuck at home with kids all day long. Schools had to resort to teaching online, so children were subjected to hours a day of learning from a screen. It really makes sense that we have seen such a rise in screen time use. Another concern I have is not just the use of screen time, but the addictiveness it seems to create, especially in young children. In looking at the article, What Does Screen Time Do to My Brain? It says this: many children are hooked on electronics, and in fact, application gaming releases so much dopamine, sometimes known as the feel-good chemical, that it resembles cocaine use on brain scans. This is really alarming to me because many children are so addicted that there is a reason why. It is literally uncontrollable for them. The more use, the more dopamine is released, and the more they desire it. In studying this topic, something else I found incredibly interesting was something known as the transfer deficit. When a child is looking at a book with you and learns a new word and later finds an object in the real life that represents that word, that is called transfer of learning. Or when a child applies information they learn from a 2D object to a 3D one. For example, you can read a book to a child about stacking blocks, and then later that day you're playing with blocks and the child tells you they are stacking blocks. The child has transferred the concept of stacking blocks from simply hearing about it in a book to performing the concept in a real-world experience. Research has shown that children can learn from the use of screens, but have a much deeper experience learning from real person or a real life situation. This phenomenon, known as a transfer deficit, is where a child simply does not learn as much from a TV as they do from a live demonstration of the same situation. Even when it comes to interacting on the use of a tablet, there is still a transfer deficit due to the cognitive demands on the child during the game or the learning application. Since a child was using their attention to participate in the activity on the tablet, they were less able to transfer the knowledge to the real world. When I look at all this research, it can be incredibly disheartening. I wish all parents knew the research behind screen time use, but at the same time, I can't possibly judge them because it can be so hard to survive day to day with everything that is asked of parents. The demands of a parent are difficult, often balancing so many things that I can understand the need to turn on a television to something your child really enjoys, or handing them a device so that you're able to get things done, or to even just have a moment of peace. So yes, I feel a level of conviction, but also a deep need for empathy. If I could have it my way, I wish we could offer parents more support and make sure every parent has more of a village. But I know parents just do not have the same communities around them that some of their parents once had. I don't know that we can fully solve this problem without creating a structure of support and continuing to educate parents on the overuse of screen time. Now, we can throw up our hands and believe there's nothing we can do, but that's simply not true. There are many things that we can consider and resources that we can provide for families and educators on having meaningful uses of technology for our children. A company called 0 to 3 has developed this concept called Screen Sense, which describes the effect of media on the lives of young children. Their research shows that it's not so much about the time a child spends in their media environment, but instead choosing appropriate media that aligns with the 3 C's. Those C's are the child, the content, and the context. When considering the child, it's important to consider if the media is good for the individual child currently. Asking if the media is appropriate and good for their development is important. The next one is the content. It's important to consider if it engages the child in meaningful ways, is active for the child, or is relevant. Choosing media that brings the child in as an active participant can encourage learning. Lastly, considering the context of whether the child is alone watching the content or with an adult can help them learn the process of what they're watching, learn and process it. It has been shown that children learn more when an adult is present during media use to help them process what they're seeing and asking questions to reinforce their knowledge. Understanding screen sense according to 0 to 3 is how we can utilize media for the good in the lives of our children. My proposal is simple. It's to enact change when it comes to screen time use in early childhood. And it's really twofold. 1, educating parents on what the research says. 2, advocating for less screen time use in schools. Now, to educate parents, each school year, I would honestly host a webinar and talk to my local schools to see if they can get their families involved. I feel the 0 to 3 screen sense research would be a great resource to provide to parents as well as to teach from. I would like to teach the 3 C's of screen use and the transfer deficit that takes place in the use of TVs and tablets that I've mentioned previously, as well as to give them some next steps that the research suggests. I also think it would be important to inform them of the negative effects of screen use, as indicated in What Does Screen Time Do to My Brain? Some of the recommendations would include avoiding screen times as a part of the bedtime routine, not allowing screens in the child's bedroom, participating and being present with their child, conversing with them during the use of screens, and offering daily options for physical play. The second order of business, of course, would be to advocate for less screen time use in the schools. While I understand that the use of smartboards, tablets, TVs, and computers can help in aiding educational learning, the articles I have referenced here today have shown that it must be limited. Schools must be shown the research about the transfer deficit and really ask how we can limit screen time use, especially in younger children. Screens do not have to be a negative thing and can be used in many positive ways. I believe that by educating parents and advocating for less screen time use in school, we can all move forward to a healthier media environment for kids. I advocate that screen time not be eliminated, but that we simply guard and question the quantity and quality of our screen time use while asking ourselves, is there a better way to teach this very thing through a real life experience? Thank you.